Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Historia Politica Pública. In the episode of today, we finish with the episode about Harry Potter and the relation with the Cold War. The last episode, I talked about the first four books, and I gave some keys to understand the analogy between the Cold War, the battle between the Soviet Union and the United States, and different things that were happening there, like the colonized world, the race to space, the espionage carried by the Soviet agent and the Western agents in the Soviet Union, and so on. And I will finish with the last three books of Harry Potter. I will start by the Order of the Phoenix, which for me is a clear analogy of the non-aligned movement you have how in the fourth book after the death of Cedric Diggory, how there is a wide recognition that Lord Voldemort has returned. However, the Ministry of Magic want to hide this reality to the public because they fear that if people know the truth, they will fall into despair, and they prefer to manipulate the reality in order to avoid people know what is happening in the real world. Obviously, this is a clear analogy of this idea of the manufacturing consent that is intellectualized by Walter Lippmann and later by Noam Chomsky, how the people who control the narrative at the end control the history and the things that are happening there. This is well developed in 1984 by George Orwell, how in the Ministry of Truth they are erasing the history, and it is a casualty that the Ministry of Truth in 1984, it is the same role that is doing the Ministry of Magic in the world of Harry Potter. Probably here is a clear reference of J.K. Rowling to the work of his British counterpart George Orwell. But the thing is, like in the Order of Phoenix, we have a Manichaean world between the Ministry of Magic, who is emphasizing that Harry Potter and Dumbledore, they are liars and everything is a conspiracy in order to destroy the values of the wizard world. So here we see the role of the Western media in order to despise everybody who did not align with the ideas of capitalism and so on during the Cold War, and something that is still happening today. Also, what's happening with when Stalin was in power, where people who did not align with their communist ideas were pointed as red fascists, Trotskyists, and many other kind of pejorative terms. So this idea how the role of the media manipulating the narrative has been used by every power that had this means to their disposal. In fact, the media is being called the fourth power after the legislative, executive, and judiciary, because it is very powerful in order to spread different ideas within society. So in the Order of Phoenix, we see in the book the different kind of news, the newspapers that are going on, Daily Prophet, and other kind of media who are using even this kind of game wars typical of the British country, like Harry Potter as a kind of the person who create plots, like kind of a liar, so on. So in that sense, the Order of the Phoenix appears as a kind of the non-aligned movement that was in the Cold War. So the non-aligned movement was this organization founded in 1955 in the Bandung Conference. It was led by many kind of chairs of the so-called Third World. We had Sukarno from Indonesia, Nehru from India, Gamal Abdel Nasser from Egypt. You have Joseph Broz Tito from Yugoslavia. So people from Africa, Asia, also Tito from, even though he was in the Eastern Bloc, but he broke with Stalin very early, like in 1948. So these people who did not support either the United States and the Western world with their capitalist ideas, but neither the Soviet Union and their ideas of communism. So they wanted to stay apart and create an alternative view of the world in which promote equality towards every person. So the Order of Phoenix, which in the book had many participants who are very important for the story. We have Remus Lupin in Father Tongs, Sirius Black, we have Alastor Moody, we have the father Ron Wesley, the Weasley family, Molly, Arthur, so many people. And the Order of Phoenix was created, I think, in the 1980s, if I am not wrong, or 1970s, because the father of Harry Potter, Lily James and James Potter were also there. So it was this kind of organization who tried to implement different measures to bring equality and justice to the world. And in that sense, the Order of Phoenix is very clear about that. We have even a person like Sirius Black, who has been always persecuted, and even though he has never been guilty, he will be a kind of wanted man until the end of his life, because what that is happening in this movie. And precisely the final fight in this book is this in the Ministry of Magic, which is very interesting because in that place you see the cross between the forces of Voldemort and the force of the Order of the Phoenix, how you have the horrors coming there. And at the end of the book, it is only when the Cornelius Fudge, the Ministry of Magic, see Voldemort in all its flesh, that he realizes that he was wrong all along. I don't know if it's like that, or it's more that he cannot hide anymore the reality, because he goes also with some kind of journalist and you cannot disguise anymore the truth. But anyway, he's forced to resign, and in the 6th book, the new Ministry of Magic will be Rufus Scrimgeour. And in the Order of Phoenix, we see how in the school, because Harry Potter is despised as a kind of liar, because the news that are being portrayed by the Ministry of Magic, obviously it crossed boundaries, and there are many people in Hogwarts who have been directly affected by the lies implemented by the media and so on. And it is not as straightforward to say like, oh, Harry Potter is the good guy and the others are evil and liars and so on. The interesting thing about the book, I think, is that it tells how there are people who believe the lies that are implemented in the newspaper because they don't have other means to inform themselves. And there is a schoolmate of a Harry Potter, which is called Seamus Finnegan, and there is a fight in the school because his mother almost did not let him come back to Hogwarts because Harry Potter was there. Mother was influenced by the newspaper because she used to read that every day, and Ron Weasley replied to him like, oh, but you don't have to believe these stupid lies, you know. But it is not as easy as it says, because as Walter Lippmann explains, the pseudo environment precisely is the idea that because you are not able to understand all the reality, you need to trust in some kind of media. And because the mother of this alum at Hogwarts, Seamus Finnegan, is reading the Daily Prophet, I think is the name of the newspaper, who is covering all this information, it is she believes that Harry Potter is lying. And the thing is, like, the only person that has seen Voldemort in the 4th book are Cedric Diggory and Harry Potter, because Cedric Diggory has been killed. It is only we that we need to believe Harry Potter testimony. And think about it, because we have been reading the book obviously through the eyes of Potter. We know that Voldemort has come back to life, but the thing is, like, what about those people who did not see that? How can they face this reality? And this is something that is happening in the world nowadays. Like, it's really difficult to understand what is really going on, and sometimes even if reality is being portrayed to you, you don't want to accept what is happening. It's like the allegory of Plato's cave and so on, that when you go outside of the cave and you see the real world, after when you come back and tell the people what is really going on, it's difficult to destroy these kind of ideas that these people have had for their whole life. So it's kind of difficult in that sense. So the non-alive movement, the Order of the Phoenix, and even in the school, they create the Secret Army of Dumbledore, which is done by Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, Neville Longbottom, Ginny Weasley, Ron Weasley, and many people from Gryffindor, but also from Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw, like Luna Lovegood, Cho Chang, and so on. But the thing is, like, the Slytherin, again, they are the outcasts. They are completely isolated from everything that is happening in the story. So this is a clear representation of the misogyny against this class. Many things that are happening there. So the Secret Army of Dumbledore, the importance of using a name of a person who can inspire you. Dumbledore did not have any idea that this was going on, or at least it not been said in the book. But the thing is, like, they use the name of Dumbledore because it's like the kind of inspiration for them. So, and also the thing of Dumbledore, which is an interesting character because he's portrayed as the kind of the good person, but we later understand how he has his own contradictions, like why he's not able to liberate the slaves, which is something that is not really analyzed in the book. The slaves, as I mentioned in the other episode, they are just serving the wizards. They are exploited, and Dobby, which is the good guy, he's free and he's able to have a good life. But the thing is, like, only Hermione seems able to kind of fight for the rights of the elves. And other people join the organization, the Spew, but at the end, nothing is going on, and the elves finish the story of Harry Potter as they were at the beginning, just being slaves. Same as the Muggles, like the Muggles who are portrayed by the image of the Dursley, and how they are seen as a kind of naive, even greed and bad people, whereas the wizards, they have more ideas about what is happening in the world, and even though they are good and bad people, at least they have this kind of rationality in their actions rather than the others. So going back to the sixth movie, The Half-Blood Prince, I think this is a clear analogy of Peter Kropotkin, which is the anarchist who wrote The Conquest of the Bread, 1906, The Mutual Aid, I think it was 1894. He was born in 1850s and died in the Soviet Union in 1921. And he was very famous because he was all his life attacking capitalism through his anarchist perspective. And when he came back to Russia, he was originally from Russia, but he had to flee very early in his life because he was exiled and he traveled for many countries. He established in London, in France, and other areas. But the thing is, like, when he came back to Russia, before it was the Soviet Union, I think he came back in 1917 to see the effects of the revolution. And in the following years, he started to criticize the new regime of Russia implemented by Lenin. He denounced that it was very authoritarian and so on, and he had some conversation with Lenin. The thing is, like, I think he represents the Half-Blood Prince. With the Half-Blood Prince, as you know, is Severus Snape. Severus Snape was ally, a Death Eater, was an ally of Voldemort, but there is a moment in his life that through the love of Lily James, he's able to spy on Voldemort to provide information to Dumbledore. But the thing is, like, Snape do not support either the people of Gryffindor or other house at Hogwarts, but neither supports Voldemort and his army. So for me, he's like Kropotkin. He wants to establish a different kind of system, criticizing both the Russian Revolution and the Western world. Same as Snape, which symbolized this kind of ambivalency, a difficult character, but at the end I think is the most deep character in the whole saga. Obviously, all of us, we know the final plot twist about what is really going on. But the thing is, like, Lily James, in that sense, symbolized anarchism, the idea of love, of the importance of how a person like Lily James is able to change the whole world of Severus Snape, like bringing him from the world of the Death Eaters, Voldemort army, to kind of the other path, but neither aligned itself too much with that. But at the end, after Lily James is killed by Voldemort, he promised to protect Harry Potter all his life, even though he despised the kid. And this is clear in Harry Potter world. I think this is very important because he doesn't want to save Harry Potter because he thinks, oh, this guy is very cool, he's nice. No, he says the guy is arrogant like his father. He says he's a kind of greed person, you know. But still, because he loves so much Lily James, he's able to protect him. And this is one of the ideas of anarchism. You don't need to love everybody around you in order to want the best for them. It's like, okay, maybe you don't like your neighbors or you don't have many things in common, but this is not reason to think that they don't deserve the best thing in their life, that you don't need to go through an idea of international solidarity. Like, there are millions of people that we will never know in the world. But it doesn't mean that we want that bad things happen to them. We just think, okay, I think that everybody should be treated equally. And same with the non-human animals, like, and this is very well explained by Peter Singer in his book Animal Liberation. Like, it is not that he says, it is not that I love the animals by the sake of it, but I am a vegan because I want to avoid the suffering of the animals, not because I have particular sympathy for non-human animals, but rather because I think it's something just that inflicting pain in other species is absolutely wrong. And I think in that sense, the Half-Blood Prince is a person like Kropotkin. Peter Kropotkin is well represented by that, and the idea of anarchism, which consists in creating a society with the common solidarity of every person, and also trusting the others, caring for yourself, your own initiative to learn. And Severus Snape, which is one of the best wizards in the area of potions and so on, and he's very good with occlumancy, which is the kind of skill to read the other minds. And I think in Hogwarts there is no other person who is able to do that. So Kropotkin, who was also a very versatile person, was a cartographer. He was traveling in Siberia. He was able to draw maps to explore the different species of non-human animals, which he develops very well in his book Mutual Aid. So it's a kind of person who could be able to have different skills to put in the order of community, same as Severus Snape, which, because he was very smart, knew occlumancy, knew the art of the potions, was very good even in magic. He was a real good fighter and was a good spy. He had all the kind of abilities which Dumbledore uses for the good, for the Commonwealth, in order to save the world against the evil, which is represented by Voldemort. So the sixth book, which is really great, you have also interactions between Dumbledore and Harry Potter. Dumbledore, how, in spite of all his wrongdoings, is able to carry good actions at the end. Obviously, this can be exacerbated because he's going to die, and perhaps he wants to be remembered through eternity. Like the idea of humanity to transcendence beyond immortality is wanted to do by Dumbledore, but at the same time, he sacrificed everything in his life, and it is told that he loved the dark art when he was young. He had this fight with Grindelwald and so on. And Dumbledore is the idea of how humanity is able to kind of redeem itself without being able to forgive himself. And this is very important. Like, he never forgives himself for the death of his sister Ariana, and this is very well explained also in the third movie about the Fantastic Beasts, which is called it's called The Secrets of Dumbledore, precisely. It's very illustrative, the name. And in that sense, I think it's very interesting exercise of self-exploration. But overall, the Half-Blood Prince, Peter Kropotkin, Anarchism, Severus Snape, and Common Aid. And I think I will go for the next episode, for the next book in the next episode, because there are some things to take: Resistance Against Slytherin, the Oppression in the Chambers, and also the Deathly Hallows, which, spoiler alert, is an analogy of the student revolts in the French May and the idea of the university as the hub to carry on the intellectual movement, which will ally later on with the working class.